Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Hope you had a great weekend. We know that President Trump has departed for a 3-day trip to France for the G7. Leaders from countries include Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and of course, the United States of America. We're told the leaders will discuss global issues, including economic policy and global financial stability, trade and international commerce, international security and geopolitics, along with development aid, global health and poverty reduction, emerging topics like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and technology governance, among other topics. Now, France is 6 hours ahead of East Coast time, so at 5:30 Central European Summer Time, that's 11:30 here on the East Coast, the president will participate in a bilateral meeting with the president of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron. At 7:30 local time, 1:30 East Coast time, the president participates in a G7 leaders working dinner. So we'll have some of that a little bit later for you as you're looking live at the White House in Washington, D.C. Blue skies after last night's huge event. We'll get to that in just a second. In about 30 minutes, Ambassador Carla Sands will join us to talk about the G7 as she heads to France as well tomorrow. In other news, we're hearing that there will be a peace deal signed involving our country and Iran. We'll monitor any developments throughout our live stream as that deal is scheduled to be signed this Friday. Let's begin our live stream broadcast with some highlights from last night's UFC Freedom 250 event at the White House.
Here is the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
Well, if you're not awake, you're awake now, especially if you're watching on the West Coast. It's only, of course, 7:05 a.m. out there. And if you're watching a little later on replay, that music, that great announcement, and the UFC fight maybe a little bit later when you wake up a little bit, unless you already have a bunch of coffee and you're ready to go. Anyway, all right, so we are live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thanks again for live streaming in with us. We're going to see President Trump. We're going to see the French President Macron as they have a bilateral meeting, this time not in D.C., but out there in France. Again, that's 6 hours ahead of us East Coast time. We know that President Trump around 3, 4 in the morning departed for France and has since landed. So he is there, and we'll see those meetings coming up here on Right Side. Now, this is going to be the style of coverage, unless there's any breaking news, over the next 24 to 48 hours here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So today through Wednesday, whenever there's a live event happening in France involving President Trump, we'll have one of the major things in that day. Now, if the president appears a number of other times sporadically throughout the day, we'll also be putting that up live, or at least uploading those various videos on the internet for you to check out, as we, of course, love to join you live here on Right Side each and every day. Again, especially if there's breaking news, developing news, or a huge political event like today, the G7, President Trump going from yesterday, of course, Flag Day, celebrating his 80th birthday, and then the UFC event that happened there on the South Lawn. If you're just joining us, we just aired a couple of those clips. So we'll get back to some of that in a little bit. We'll also have, again, the ambassador to Denmark under President Trump's first term, Carla Sands, who will be heading to France for the G7. She'll be joining us at about 11 o'clock this morning here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, as that event with President Trump and President Macron is scheduled for 11:30 Eastern. Meantime, the U.S. Army released a video about its 251st birthday, obviously 1775, under the leadership of General George Washington. They also released a video about Old Glory. Let's look at clip number 2. All right, so obviously the U.S. Army sending out some great videos recently. Thanks so much for live streaming in with us. All of you that are looking to see the president, of course, as soon as we see that feed in France. They're 6 hours ahead of us right now, so it's, I don't know, what time is that? That's 4:30 coming up here in a little bit. So anyway, let me go back to that just to get that accurate here on Right Side, because I want to get the times right. So we know, of course, that the president's meeting with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. So 5:30 Central European Summer Time, that's 11:30 Eastern Time. So in about an hour or so, we'll see that live feed here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And then again, if you're just joining us, over the course of the next 2 days, the president will be there in France attending the G7. We'll have live events each day. This is one of them, of course. And then if the president is live at any other times throughout the day, or tomorrow or Wednesday, of course, we'll be here live for at least one of the broadcasts. And then outside of that, you never know, because, you know, obviously a totally different time zone on the other side of the earth right now, or at least across the pond over there in France. So we'll be bringing you live coverage and uploading as much as we see here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Beautiful blue skies there in D.C. As some of you may have seen on Paramount Plus yesterday, the UFC fight there. Of course, President Trump ringside there. We're going to air some more of those videos in just a second. Before we do, let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, summer travel season is here. You might have planned the flights or maybe the road trip, but you might have booked a hotel too, packed the bags, but did you forget maybe the medications? Most people don't remember that until they're 3 states away and realize they left something important at home. Or maybe someone gets sick and there's no doctor in sight. That's why more Americans are turning to our good sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, before they travel. So if you already have a prescription for essential medications, they can fill it. If not, you just complete a short medical form online, and they connect you with a licensed doctor who will review your request and prescribe if appropriate. They have more than 400 medications, so antibiotics, ivermectin, allergy medications, emergency inhalers, maintenance medications, everything shipped straight to your door. So you don't have to wait until something goes wrong. Just prepare now. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code at checkout. You'll get that 10% off. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group because you can buy some gold and then put some silver in your pocket at the same time. But some people say, well, or a lot of people maybe, how am I going to purchase gold right now? A lot of things out there are expensive. Well, one thing you can control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. So Birch Gold Group will help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold. Something, of course, that's a hedge against inflation. And check this out right now, Birch Gold is going to give you that special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. 10 years ago, an ounce of gold was about $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. And the question is, where will it be 10 years from now? Text Trump to 989898 to take advantage of the free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898, and you can get the ball rolling there. You'll get that free info kit as well with Birch Gold Group. All right, so we're 13 minutes past the hour here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and a shout out to anybody that puts their mug on TV in the sense of whether it's on social media, on live stream, and you talk about the right side of history. It takes one thing to be able to, post a lot of things online. It takes another thing to maybe post and then put yourself out there like this. It's a kind of a different animal altogether. But a shout out to those that are saying, you know what, not afraid to stand up for the country, not afraid to put it all out there for the nation and, fight for our freedom legally, lawfully, and spiritually. So just a shout out to anybody that's doing that. And if you don't do that and you just post, hey, it's all good. You might not want to be out there for various reasons. That's cool too. But if you're actually in media and then you're just hiding behind, being a keyboard warrior and that's it, okay, it still works. It still can get the information out there. But get on camera and try and do it and talk about the country in the face of evil that's out there. All right, so I'm just want to throw that way for anybody in the media that's on the conservative side of things, but just likes to hide instead of really put yourself out there. So anyway, maybe you might be referring to one or two people right now, but I'm not going to go there, of course. All right, so let's do this. Let's go to clip number 3. Just in time for America's 250th birthday, Washington, D.C. has become beautiful and safe again. Here's a video from the Department of the Interior, clip number 3.
Under President Donald J. Trump, the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool is getting an all-American makeover, just in time for our nation's 250th birthday. Inspired by the vision of President Trump, the restoration project is transforming the iconic reflecting pool with long-awaited upgrades and a bold American flag blue finish.
This project was done 10 times faster at a fraction of the cost, and it won't leak.
All part of a broader effort to restore and revitalize Washington, D.C. ahead of a historic summer of visitors. The Department of the Interior is working to make America's capital city safe, beautiful, and ready to celebrate 250 years of American greatness.
We are looking forward to June 24th, Freedom 250. President Trump's America is Back rally, of course, we'll be covering that. We'll also be covering July 4th in Washington, D.C. Looking forward to all of that live stream broadcast coverage here on Right Side. Speaking of D.C., beautiful look there. As the president, of course, already departed after that UFC birthday bash in a way for the country there. As many of you might have seen some of the highlights, or maybe you actually saw the fights yesterday. We'll play some of that in just a second. But, outside of that, we know that President Trump in France already. He left around 3, 4 in the morning, depending on if I'm looking at Central Time or Eastern Time. Looking at some of these emails from the TV pools, you never know which time zone they're always referring to. But at the end of the day, President Trump's in France. He'll meet with President Emmanuel Macron of France. That will be at 11:30 Eastern Time. So we have about an hour or so until that happens. As soon as we see that feed, we take you there, of course. Now, also, we know President Trump, literally, they just landed Air Force One out there. And usually what we'll see now is we'll be seeing some of the various press gaggles. Maybe the president will speak to reporters as he deplanes from Air Force One. As we see those clips, we will be able to air those if he does stop and talk to the press. Now, he might be on the way quickly, though, to, of course, meet with the French president. Again, this is all about the G7. If you're just joining us, you know, this is 3 days that President Trump will be in France. We'll have live coverage each day from France, of course, where we'll have the meetings that the president has with various leaders. Now, again, the G7 leaders from countries that include Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and of course, our country, the United States. And the leaders will discuss global issues, including economic policy, global financial stability, trade and international commerce, international security and geopolitics, development aid, global health, poverty reduction, emerging topics like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and technology governance. Now, France, of course, again, is 6 hours ahead of East Coast time. So at 5:30 local time, that's Central European Summer Time, that's 11:30 in the morning here on the East Coast. The president, again, will participate in that bilateral meeting with the president of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron. And then tonight at 7:30 local time there in France, only 1:30 in the afternoon East Coast time, the president participates in a G7 leaders working dinner. In about maybe more than 30 minutes, I had 30 minutes here on my notes, but it looks like at 11 a.m., Ambassador Carla Sands will join us live to talk about the G7 as she too will head to France tomorrow. In other news, we're hearing that there will be a peace deal signed involving our country and Iran. We'll monitor any developments throughout our live stream broadcast as that deal is scheduled to be signed this Friday. So there is a pre-agreement, and then ideally that thing is signed on Friday, and there is peace in that situation there. All right, let's go to a couple of our sponsors in the meantime. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Of course, Father's Day coming up here this Sunday, so the 21st. So today would be a great day, or tomorrow, or Wednesday, or any day really. But really today, if you can, go to MyPillow.com/RSBN. If you're looking for a few gifts for dad out there, there are some great gifts right there as you see on your screen. The Father's Day sale, use the RSBN promo code, get quite the discount for some great products that you guys have heard about, I'm sure. If you haven't, I mean, just the Giza Dream Sheets alone are amazing. The premium MyPillow, the robes, the socks, the towels, all the things. Check it out, mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. All right, so in case you missed it, on Friday, we had a few pretty cool interviews. We'll have some more today, of course, but let's start out with Ohio. Representative Gary Click, the state representative there in Ohio, joined us to talk about something that we really like here at this network, and including in conservative media, anything to do with the Save America Act, whether it's one of the states saying, you know what, we want voter ID on our ballot, or we want to stop all those fraudulent mail-in ballots that get counted, aka possibly Spencer Pratt situation. So anyway, let's go to Ohio for that interview. And as we continue on our live stream broadcast, if there's any breaking news, we'll be sure to bring it to you. Let's go to that interview now. Let's go to Ohio. Representative Gary Click joining us right now. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Great to see you again, OH.
I.O. in the house, man. I used to work in Columbus, Ohio. That's the big Ohio Buckeyes chant, of course. Yes. Now, the question is, will voter ID be on the November ballot in the Buckeye State? Like, what's the latest going on there with that?
Yeah, we had some marathon sessions this week, and we passed it out of the House to put it on the put the referendum on the ballot, and so it is going to be on the ballot in November, and I'm looking forward to that. That's what the voters want. The voters believe in integrity. They want to know that the person who's casting that ballot is who they say they are, not someone else. They want to eliminate fraud. Ohio is great, a great place. We've had some wonderful secretaries of state, easy to vote, hard to cheat, and we're just doubling down on that now.
And that's always good to hear. And then I posted something about this on Truth Social the other day, and then some reply comments where we're like, well, what about mail-in ballots? And what about proof of citizenship? And I said, listen, doing anything in the direction of just getting it started. Give us something, right? I mean,
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, and this is really a two-pronged approach that we're doing here. We're putting that in the ballot. We're on the ballot. We're keeping it simple. You complicate the ballot, and if it's complicated and hard to understand, people vote no. However, we still have the ability to add it to the mail-in ballots legislatively, and we have also at the same time, the same session. In fact, before we passed the part for the referendum, SJR 10, we passed HB 472, which also says that for mail-in ballots, you have to have a photo ID. So it's a two-pronged approach, but we're covering the mail-in ballots as well.
Always good to see that. Anything that goes toward election security or election integrity, awesome to see it. What else is going on there in Ohio? What are you seeing there? What are you working on? What are the constituents saying to you, sir?
Well, very good. That's a good question. And one of the things we're really working on right now is data centers as well. That's a big news item here in Ohio. I have a Bill 646, which was created to establish a data center study commission that passed the Ohio House unanimously back in March. Went to the Senate, and the Senate said, let's do this to be more efficient. Let's create a select committee on data centers. That's a tongue twister. Data center study committee, and combined with some of the leaders in both the House and the Senate, and so we put that together. Have had a number of hearings, and we're just trying to come to some consensus on the best way to move forward. And I'm not necessarily a critic of the data centers, but neither a proponent. We just want to make sure it's done right. A lot of people in our communities have a lot of concerns about them, the use of agricultural land, how does it affect the water, tax abatements, things like that, energy, bring your own energy, things like that. So we're trying to put some common sense policies in place. We didn't quite get there to get across the finish line yet, but we are continuing to work on that. And that's one of the biggest issues in Ohio right now.
Exactly. A lot of rural area in Ohio outside of Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, of course, and you have Akron and these other towns. But yeah, it's a big, big state there. Right. Let's talk about some other states. So let's talk about to the north of you, kind of Chicago, Illinois. We look at, Mayor Brandon Johnson there. You look at J.B. Pritzker. You look at these leftists that just don't have the people's interests at heart. What is it like to, work in state government there in Ohio, but you look out and you see these other things happening across the country?
Well, Ohio is the heart of it all, and a lot of good stuff starts here. And we're looking forward. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be our next governor, along with now Senate President Rob McCauley is going to be our lieutenant governor. And I think that's going to add a lot of steam to the things that we're doing. And Ohio is no longer a purple state. We're a red state. And that means we're going to get things done. We're going to do a whole lot better than Pritzker, who just lost, who did he lose? The Bears to Indiana? Really? Wow, that's incredible. I just saw that today. So we're doing things right. We've got a strong legislature. We've got just some good people who are serving our community, and we're fighting for what's right. You just go back to even putting this referendum on the ballot for voter ID. It's so incredible how many Democrats want something on the ballot when they think it favors them. They gotta let the people speak. Let the people speak until you want them to speak on this, and they're not going to say what the Democrats want. Then they're like, no, don't do this. We can't let the people speak. We got to silence the people because they're going to do what we don't want them to do. Well, we're here to stand up for the people in the great state of Ohio. We're going to give them their voice, and we can tell you right now how they're going to vote. They're going to vote for voter ID in the state of Ohio. Photo ID.
It'll be great to see it. And this is why I wanted to bring you on, sir, because I saw this headline the other day about Ohio and voter ID. And previously I was saying if the Save America Act doesn't pass from the federal government, specifically Congress, then the local and state governments should pass as much of the part of it or all of it as much as they can within those governments. Right. Do you agree?
The states are the laboratories of democracy. We don't have to wait on the federal government to do these things. We can go ahead and get it started. We create the movement, and then Congress can pick up on that and say, hey, well, look what these guys have done. Let's go ahead and make it, federal. I've done the same thing with the SAFE Act, preventing childhood mutilation here for gender reassignment purposes. And you might have seen, just did an interview earlier, Cleveland Clinic was just found out for miscoding, and they were coding things differently than what they should have been to have this covered and to continue to provide these procedures for minors that are unsafe. And I told them, I said, listen, our children are not your science experiments. And so now they have committed to not doing that for the next 20 years, which I'm not sure why they put a 20-year cap on that. Like, how about we just say never, ever? But they're also going to spend some money on making sure to help these young people who realize what mistake they made, and to do some restorative procedures. I've talked to Chloe many times, a friend of mine, and that's one of the problems that she and Prisha and others face, is when they realize that they made a mistake, when they realize that they were conned, and they try to go back as far as they can to what they were, the hospitals don't want to help them. And at first they tell us they're not doing it, and then, okay, well, we are doing it, and now we're going to stop doing it, but we don't want to help. Okay, now we're going to help these kids. And they donate, they committed finances to making sure to help these children. And so we're moving in the right direction. Things are going in the right direction, but we got to keep up the fight. The fight never ends. And so we don't quit.
That's the truth right there. We are freedom fighters, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, freedom fighting legally, lawfully, and spiritually across this country. Mm-hmm. Two more items quickly to get you on, one in New York and one in Ireland, of all places. But if you go several hundred miles to your east, of course, New York City, speaking about the same topic you're talking about, did you know that Mamdani the other day announced $15 million for New Yorkers, for the whole community, to allow more gender affirming care? They're using the tax dollars to push even terrible things. Just your quick reaction on that.
Well, they're trying to play God, and they're not. There's a problem with that, is the role's already filled, and they're going to do more harm. We know from the science. Yeah, we know from the science that this promotes suicidal ideology in kids, because they get a false promise, like, oh, I can be something that I'm not. And really, it's a mental health issue that these kids are facing. We should love these kids enough to tell them the truth, and this is not going to solve your problems. Because what kids do after they buy this lie, they realize, oh, I thought I could turn into a girl, but I can't. Or I thought I could be a boy, and I'm not. And then that depression just doubles down inside of them, and they feel used, they feel worn out, they feel cheated, they feel lied to. And that's why that suicide rate raises by 19 times. And the other thing, here in Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland, I've got a bill, HB 693, the Affirming Families First Act. They were actually, even after we passed the SAFE Act, any child that was coming into contact with them and their children's services, they start interviewing that. They have a whole script, and they're required to ask every child. And as you well know, every accusation is investigated. So every child that comes in contact, they're saying, well, do you feel like a boy? Do you feel like a girl? Do you like boys or do you like girls? And then they're writing it, keeping track of it in a database. And they had a young boy on there, as young as 5 years old, listed as gay and being affirmed by his parents. And by the way, if you're not an affirming parent, then they say you're dangerous, you're a harm to your child. And so we wrote this to say, no, it is not a danger to affirm your child's sex. And we reclaimed the language, because they always talk about affirming, and it sounds so lovely, sounds so flowery, sounds so nice, but they're affirming a lie. There's no such thing as a gender identity that is separate from who you are, separate from your sex. And they call it conversion therapy if you don't tell a boy he's a girl. And I think what they're doing is conversion therapy. They asked me, they said, so what do you think about conversion therapy? I said, I don't believe you ought to be converting little boys into little girls. It doesn't work. And so but they're trying to still push on that button. And we're saying, no, calling a boy is not harmful. Calling a girl is not harmful. Telling Johnny he's a boy, Susie she's a girl, that is not harmful. And you're not going to go in and tell the parents that they have to do this under the threat of losing custody of their children, under threat of being bullied and told that, no, you have to change your religion if your religion says something different from that. I'm not putting up with it. The great state of Ohio is not putting up with it. We are going to push back. We've noticed the evil never quits. Sin never stops. They're always going to push their wicked liberal agenda on us, but we're always here to fight back and to push back, and we're going to save our children.
Perfectly said. Ohio Representative Gary Click joining us right now. And like I mentioned earlier, talking about Ireland as well, outside of New York, where it got this whole conversation really going, was the mass migration that they're seeing in Europe right now. That's a big story overseas right now, specifically Ireland, because of a terrible incident that I'm not going to rehash that happened recently. But the Irish people are saying enough is enough. We're not doing that here in our country. Your thoughts about right now in Ohio? Are you seeing illegal immigrants a lot in your? Is it a big problem in your state right now with ICE, or what's going on there?
I don't know if it's illegal as much as it is the legal. I mean, we do have the illegals. There's no doubt about it. I actually have a bill about that it's HB 200, the America First Act. And it simply says if it's illegal for you to be in America, it's illegal for you to be in the United States. And the penalty is a $500 fine, 1 year in jail. And when you get out of jail within the first 48 hours, you need to skedaddle out of Ohio. And the message is, if you're going to be in the United States illegally, Ohio is not the place to do it. But we've also, I introduced that first during the Biden administration. We've revised it since then and updated the language. But it also says that, during that time, we can turn them over to ICE to be deported and removed. They don't have to stay here a year. Let's get them out of the country. Listen, I don't despise immigrants. My niece married a guy from Canada. Great. He had to come in the legal way. And I know many people who've come here and they've come here the legal way. That's great. We welcome that. But part of the legal way, and it's a biblical thing, is assimilation. If you're going to come into this country, that's because you think there's something better in this country than the country you're leaving. And so if you want what's better in this country, then become an American and learn what America is about. What made America great to begin with. Don't just come for our resources, but come for our soul, come for our heart, come for who we are, and make that a part of who you are. But if you're leaving a third world country that you hate and that is disgusting to you, not to us, I'm saying to you, and you want to leave that because you have no opportunity, when you come to the land of opportunity, participate in that opportunity and find out what gives you that opportunity and participate in that and preserve that heritage for the next generation.
And it's exactly right. It's the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land. Here is the law, of course, and there are some that are trying to push some other laws that are unfortunately happening in Europe, aka Sharia law. So it's not against, and as Senator Tommy Tuberville said just earlier this week, he was saying, if you're a practicing Muslim and you're in this country and you're going along with the Constitution and all the things and you're not pushing Sharia law, fine. But if you're trying to push something that is anti, not only anti the Constitution, but anti-morality, if you don't submit to something, you die, death to America, that kind of thing.
Well, Sharia is not a religion; it's a law, and that's what people need to understand. I am actually the vice chair for Ohio for the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, NACL, and I just came from a conference there at Liberty University, and they were talking about some legislation across the nation. I think Texas has already passed it, that no Sharia law, and that is not religious persecution. Listen, our law is, we don't have quote unquote Christian law either. We don't put in the Constitution that you should have this religion or that religion, or you have to. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ changed my life. He saved my soul. He forgave my sins. But I am not going to try to force other people to do that. And even when I ran the SAFE Act, I had people from all walks of life that came and supported that. One of the ladies that actually became a good friend of mine is an atheist, and she doesn't believe, and I keep working on her. But she asked me to marry her, and I not me personally. Let me get that straight.
That's the way I just took it.
I've got a good wife, and I love my wife. I'm turning red here on TV. But she asked me to perform her wedding ceremony, and I said, I can do that, but if I do that, I'm going to talk to you about Jesus Christ. I'm going to mention Jesus. And she said, that's great. But I don't try to make her or anyone else follow my religion. We're not going to, we don't have religious laws in the United States. We have the freedom of religion. Not freedom from religion, but the freedom of religion. And we're not going to impose anyone's law except American law, constitutional law, on anyone, anywhere.
If you're just joining us, this is an Ohio state representative. He's in state government, Gary Click. I'm going to have to follow you on X, sir, because what you're saying is so right on the money. But here's my question to you. Have you ever run for federal government? Have you ever tried to throw your hat in the ring in Congress?
Oh, great question. Well, I had considered, I really haven't looked at it seriously, but I did consider it, because for a time I was in the 9th Congressional District. We're just actually moved in the last redistricting, but I used to have Jim Jordan, and we did some redistricting that I voted against because people said, why did you vote against the redistricting? And I said, I can't go home and tell people I traded Jim Jordan for Marcy Kaptur. I'd get voted out immediately. But we did end up with Marcy, and I had considered that, but I had some other good colleagues that were running for that. And right now, Derek Marin is the Republican candidate for that seat, and he's going to do a fine job. I look forward to him beating Marcy and winning. But I'm actually have been moved into Bob Latta's seat now, and I don't believe in running against my good conservative colleagues when they're doing a good job. So I'm not going to challenge them. And I honestly, I just put myself in the Lord's hands. And if the Lord wants me to run for something, I run for it when that opportunity arises. But I didn't even go looking for this. The Lord opened these doors, and the people in the district asked me to run. And matter of fact, when I was contemplating it, people said, "Are you going to run? Are you going to run?" I said, "Well, I'm still praying about it." And they said, "Quit praying about it and just do something." And so I did, but I still felt like it was the Lord's calling to do it, and the Lord is blessed. And I feel like I've been able to make a positive impact on the state of Ohio and a little bit beyond that. Just, the Department of Health here, the National Department of Health used some of the language from 693 when they made their executive orders regarding gender transition and sex rejecting procedures. They borrowed actually some of the language from my legislation. So I feel like I've been able to have a big impact in doing what I'm doing. And listen, it's not about me. It's only about serving the people, serving God. And as long as I can do that, I'll be here. When the Lord says the time is up for that, I'll do something else. But I'm always going to be giving back to my community. And I feel like I'm always going to do my best to serve the Lord wherever he calls me.
Awesome. Nothing to say other than amen. And this has been a great interview. I've had a pleasure talking to you. If you'd like to follow me on X, it's at Matthew Alvarez, or actually Matthew US Media, and I'll follow you right back. Even if you don't follow me, I'm still following you.
Click for Ohio.
Okay. Thank you so much. Gary Click, the Ohio representative. Thanks again for what you're doing for this country.
All right. God bless you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, man. That was awesome. All right, so of course that was just from this past Friday. As we are continuing our live coverage right now, we'll be heading to France to see President Trump, to see the French President Emmanuel Macron as well. The bilateral meeting set to start at 11:30 Eastern Time, which is about 5:30 out there local time. I believe it's called, Central. Let me double check that for you guys real quick here, what the time zone is called out there in France, just for those that are political nerds like myself. All right, let's see here. Looking for it right about, there you go. Central European Summertime. So at 5:30 Central European Summertime and 11:30 Eastern Time, we'll see the president meeting with the French president for that bilateral meeting. In the meantime, before we get to seeing a visual actually of President Trump as he has landed there in France, let's go to some of our sponsors here on Right Side, including All Family Pharmacy. Summer travel season is here. You might have planned the flights or the road trip, maybe booked the hotel or the Airbnb and packed the bags, but did you think about the medications? Most people don't until they're 3 states away and realize that they left something important at home, or someone gets sick and there's no doctor in sight. That's why more Americans are turning to our good sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, before they travel. So if you already have a prescription for essential medications, they can fill it. If not, complete a short medical form online and they connect you then with a licensed doctor who will review your request and prescribe if appropriate. They have more than 400 medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, allergy medications, emergency inhalers, maintenance medications, everything shipped straight to your door. So don't wait until something goes wrong. Prepare now. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that RSBN 10 promo code at checkout. You'll get 10% off. Great American independent pharmacy right there. Meantime, a lot of tax questions out there are still happening, even though it's past April 15th. Things like, do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Or have you filed every year but still keep owing? Or how about, did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill you just didn't expect? Or maybe you're a business owner with messy books and a balance you can't afford. Or lastly, maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. However your tax issue started, the outcome unfortunately is the same. Your balance, it's just not going down. Your penalties grow, your interest compounds. And if you owe back taxes, this is the group right here to help you along the way, Tax Network USA. Because the IRS, they're not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments or bank levies, property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. So this is where Tax Network USA comes in. With more than 15 years in business, there hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. They could do the same for you, but you have to call now because they're offering this free investigation call with the IRS. After that investigation, Tax Network USA will put together a clear case plan in place to resolve your tax issue and get you back on track. So this is really about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Go to 877-479-6503. That's 877-479-6503 or tnusa.com/RSBN. All right, we know President Trump is now in France. Let's take a look at a video of him deplaning Air Force One moments ago. All right, so we saw the president there, of course, boarding Marine One there in France on his way to meet with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. Of course, this is the G7. This is a 3-day state trip for President Trump. As we have various live events or live streams when it comes to the president's schedule today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, we'll be here live for it. Also, there might be some times where the live feed happens at an odd time, and we'll still have that either live right here on the network or we'll be uploading it quickly to all of our social media platforms. So really just if you stay tuned, you'll be able to see a lot of this footage here. And also, of course, we're bringing some commentary. We have some great sponsors, and we always like to bring some live interviews or some recorded ones from time to time. Like the other day, we interviewed country artist Lee Greenwood, who, of course, June 24th, going to be a big day there in Washington, D.C., and also Christopher Macchio, the presidential tenor. If you got used to some of the Italian songs that President Trump, of course, likes and a lot of the country likes, well, he's going to be performing as well on June 24th. So really looking forward to that coverage, but that's, 9 days from now, so it's around the corner. And then before you know it, it'll be America 250, Freedom 250 for the United States, as we hope to see still some sort of semblance of the Save America Act being passed somehow, some way, whether it's at the federal level, whether states do it, local governments, anything to hold on to simply this. Not to a Republican candidate, not to a Democrat candidate, just to free and fair elections. That's what people have been talking about and working so hard for so many years. And specifically since 2020, because we saw what happened there. There was a ton of mail-in ballots that were counted after President Trump at that night of the election night. He was already leading and winning in the race there. And then, of course, we saw the jumps of the bar graphs and all of that when it comes to the mail-in ballots that were counted. So, and then, we saw here's the thing that's wild about 2020. the people that say, oh, it wasn't rigged, it was a perfectly clean election. Well, if you look at the mail-in drop-offs, remember all those surveillance videos, the mules video and all that? There was all these people stuffing, just, we see what would happen. We saw what happened in Georgia. Oh, let's just take a bunch of these ballots from over here and put them over here, and it just wasn't on the up and up. And we saw that President Trump, of course, won in a landslide in 2016. The swing states went his way. The swing states went his way in 2024 because it was too big to rig. And, maybe the leftists didn't want to show their hand again of what they did in 2020 because then all the swing states, for some reason, didn't go to President Trump in 2020. It's just very confusing stuff. We know that Joe Biden from the basement couldn't win an election like that after Trump already did great in his first 4 years. It's one of those common sense things. And then when you add the evidence, you add the receipts. Well, anyway, having said all of that, it's all about that Save America Act. I'm not going to let it go. I know you probably won't either because it's a real thing. And the reason why it's so real is because those of you that watch the news, right? Those of you that maybe check on social media and see what's happening in Ireland or the UK and a number of these other countries as well, a lot of protests are happening out there because people are fed up with the mass migration that's happening. The mass migration where people from other countries that are there illegally are either killing the local citizens or they are attempting to via attempting beheading in Ireland the other day, or an attempted murder of a 17-year-old girl in England the other day. The reason why you might be seeing videos of people like you and me, these are the people of the country that are saying we don't care what the elite political class wants. We don't want what globalism wants. We don't want what the mass migration system wants to to change a country. A country is a country with borders that has hopefully great border protection and immigration laws that are on the up and up. But if you have a nation that says, let's just bring everybody in, it's okay. I mean, here in our country, what we're close to, of course, Central American countries, South American countries, of course, Canada to the north. And we know that, well, a lot of people were coming through the southern border under the Biden regime. It wasn't just people from Central and South America. It was people from all around the world. I interviewed a couple of them at the Chicago airport. If you remember, they were flying illegal immigrants from the border up to places like Chicago and New York and just dropping them off at terminals. There was that terminal that was there in Chicago, and I was on the way, and I know if you're a really loyal viewer, you know the story, but on the way to an Iowa rally to cover President Trump's campaign, part of the stop was in Chicago. There was about a 2-hour stop there. So instead of sitting there and just, scrolling my phone, which of course we all do and I do sometimes, or a lot, but I said, I know that these illegal immigrants are being housed at this terminal outside of this airport area. So I made sure, you're already checked in. You don't want to leave the airport. You got your next flight. Well, I made sure with TSA, I said, hey, I'm on a connecting flight. Can I go to that terminal and can I just leave this airport and still come back and everything's good? He says, as long as you have a ticket to fly, you're good. So I left and I interviewed a couple people. And I think what we're going to do now that we talked about it this much is I'm going to get that video for you. I've played it here on the network, but it's just the proof that it's not just because we're near Central and South America that it's just people from there. There's actually people from there, but also from Congo and also from Venezuela, of course, South America. But anyway, the point to all of it, to wrap it up, as President Trump likes to do the weave, I know he's much better storyteller, I'm sure, than I am, of course, but I like to weave it back to the point of the Save America Act. We have to have our people voting in our elections. If we don't, and we have what we have going on in Europe right now, our country, man, how's our country going to survive that? I mean, we can do what Europe's doing. The people there are rising up and they're saying, no, not on our watch are we going to have illegal immigrants and mass migration come and try and kill our people. This is what's been happening in Europe. That's why Ireland, if you just look at some of the Irish stuff in Northern Ireland right now, it's insanity. So again, We're freedom fighters legally, lawfully, and spiritually, and we want that Save America Act to pass. What else can we talk about? You know what I mean? We could talk about the UFC yesterday, which we did, and we will again. There's plenty to talk about in the country, I get it. But what are the main things that will actually keep the freedom going? You know, we're calling it Freedom 250 coming up here in just a few weeks. How are we going to keep it for another 250 years? And when I talk like this, I'm not just talking just because, you know, it's just the political thing to do or the right side of history. What about me and my family? You know, what about you and your family? You don't want to be living the way they are in Ireland right now with that kind of government. Anyway, and that's what we're seeing with the globalists and deep state. They want that kind of thing to happen in the United States of America. All right, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I just wanted to share my heart with you about that because it is frustrating to not see the Save America Act really have any momentum in Washington, outside of President Trump calling for it, of course. All right, let's go to a few of our sponsors in the meantime as we await President Trump there in France, meeting with Emmanuel Macron, of course, as President Trump just landed there. Let's go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. A lot of different political topics that are trending on Kalshi. And not only politics, sports, tech, science, music, movies, weather, faith, you name it, it's pretty much there to talk about and to bet, trade, or just check out the polls. You can do that with Kalshi.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here on Right Side. Let's also go to Cove Pure. You may have seen this before or heard about it. Apparently, researchers have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. It comes from birth control pills that wastewater treatment plants can't fully filter out. And it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man watching right now, or you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones in your life, this isn't something you can really ignore. That's why it's so important to use Cove Pure to purify your water. So here's how this actually works. When people take medication, their bodies, of course, don't absorb all of it. So the rest gets flushed and goes through wastewater treatment plants. Those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So estrone from birth control pills or antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. Your standard pitcher filter from the store just isn't going to cut it here because these compounds are just too small and too persistent. You need something that can filter things at a molecular level, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, so that estrone or fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. Unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, you fill it up with water and plug it in. And the best part is it lets you select whatever temperature you want. Hot water for tea or coffee, cold water for the gym, maybe warm water for baby bottles. So one tap of the button, it gets you what you need instantly. And of course, those fish didn't have a choice about what was in their water, but you do. So just go to covepure.com/RSBN. Right now, you get that $250 off. That's covepure.com/RSBN. All right, so we're approaching the top of the hour here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on RSBN Live.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez, looking live there into the White House in Washington, D.C. Of course, yesterday the UFC fight took place there on Flag Day, President Trump's birthday as well. We're going to go through some of those highlights in just a second. But this is as the Department of War actually posted a video about the United States Army birthday. Let's take a look at that. And speaking of the Department of War, last night, Secretary Hegseth mixed in with some of the troops. Let's take a quick look at some of the highlights from last night's UFC Freedom 250.
Here is the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your
All right, it is Monday, June 15th, about to be 11 a.m. right there on the nose on the East Coast, 8 a.m. out there on the West Coast. Thanks so much for watching from coast to coast and, of course, Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, and anywhere else you're watching right now this live stream broadcast. In just a second, we're going to go to Ambassador Carla Sands, who will be also heading to the G7, which is starting today. She's also heading there soon as well in France. So we'll get to that in just a second. This all brought to you by All Family Pharmacy. Summer travel season, of course, is here. You might have planned the flights or maybe even, a road trip, booked the hotel, packed the bags. But did you think about the medications like antibiotics? Most people don't until they're 3 states away and realize they left something important at home. Or maybe someone gets sick and there's no doctor in sight. That's why more Americans are turning to our good sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, before they travel. So if you already have a prescription for essential medications, they can fill it. Now, if not, all you have to do is complete a short medical form, and they connect you with a licensed doctor who will review your request and prescribe if appropriate. They have more than 400 medications, so things like antibiotics, ivermectin, allergy medication, emergency inhalers, maintenance medications, really everything that can be shipped straight to your door. So don't wait until something goes wrong. Prepare now. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. You get 10% off. Also, if you'd like to buy some gold and also put some silver in your pocket at the same time, that's always good, right? But the question is, can you afford some gold right now? Well, one thing you can control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. Birch Gold Group will help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold. Something, of course, that's a hedge against inflation. And check this out. Right now, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. 10 years ago, an ounce of gold was about $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. The question is, where will it be 10 years from now? Text Trump to 989898 to take advantage of free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898 today. All right, 2 minutes after the hour. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're going to go to France here in a little bit as we see President Trump and the French leader Emmanuel Macron for the start of the G7. In the meantime, joining us now is Ambassador Carla Sands. Carla, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Matthew, it's great to be with you.
It's great to have you here again because, you know, your insight and your patriotism and what you're doing for the country is quite awesome to see. On top of that, I understand you're going to be going to the G7 as well. Could you talk to us a little bit about this huge meeting there in France?
Matthew, it's an incredible meeting, but I think that, you know, President Trump's going to be, again, very candid with our rich allies. We can see Japan has really stepped up. Japan is working with the United States. They're really increasing their military spending with real credible capabilities. They're taking the challenges in the world seriously. Unlike other countries, like the UK just said, look, we're not going to get there. We just don't have first of all, the prime minister, I think, doesn't have the will. And then they are refusing to actually put it in the budget that they're going to spend the money they need to get, I think it was to 3.5% by mid-2030s. And they have to get to at least 3 by 2030 to get, you know, to 3.5%. And I don't think that this Labour government's going to do it. We know it's a rocky government, but there are other challenges in Europe. And this, you know, we'll see how. I hope that the relationship between President Trump and Emmanuel Macron continues to be productive. And they're going to a beautiful place in France called Evian. And so that's a very nice place to hold this event. But I do think that President Trump will be pressing them, especially Emmanuel Macron, because he is now proposing taxing U.S. Tech companies. And so President Trump said, you do that, we're going to put 100% tariffs on your wine. I like that. I like that math. That'll force his hand.
Exactly. And we remember President Trump, when he was, rallying and campaigning, he'd always talk about Emmanuel Macron, too, when it comes to champagne and wine and the taxes and all of that. But I mean, having, 6 other nations there, of course, including Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom. So it's great to see that the president's going to be able to mix in with these leaders. Obviously, at the start of it, he may talk about Iran and this pre-agreement that has happened, where on Friday in Switzerland, there may be a peace deal that is reached. Have you heard anything about this?
Well, I think it's the beginning of a peace deal on Friday in Geneva that will be signed. And that means they will open the Strait of Hormuz and they will not toll it, which is unacceptable to the United States. But it also goes against the UN. It's UNCLOS, the UN Charter for the Open Seas, that all countries are, they're supposed to comply with. But it's I think the first step, it's like the first chapter in a book, is to get them to this. And I think it does give countries a chance to refill their petroleum reserves and get to a better place so that their economies are okay. But I also think that there's going to be a lot of challenges going forward because we're not dealing with honest brokers with this very violent regime.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all transpires. But back to the G7, and also I know one of your focuses is on energy. Can you talk to us about that when it comes to international trade and energy for the United States of America?
I would love to. So President Trump has made us the energy dominant country in the world. Thank you, President Trump, for that leadership. And the price of things are going to start to go down now as the Strait opens and we're able to not export all of our energy. So the price already has fallen over $4 a barrel just since this announcement happened last night. And it's a pretty exciting time in America. If you look at the UFC fight last night at the White House and President Trump, getting this deal to this point, no president has taken on this regime in this way and weakened them so substantially. So the prices will fall. Our allies will begin to be able to refill their reserves. And it's the price of gasoline. It'll take a little while, but it'll begin to go down too. So that'll be some relief to the consumers. But we should expect this. We have to put on our big boy and girl pants and just expect this is going to be a rocky road until this actually does get resolved. And this IRGC, I think, controlled country of Iran, that's a terrorist exporter, is on a better foot. And that's going to take President Trump's strong pressure. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then when you look at the country here, there's two ways I want to go, really. Let's go with the one way when it comes to, Sharia law, that kind of thing in this country, and how important it is to have the Save America Act passed and really just have secure elections because, we already have a law in this country. We know what that's called, right? The Constitution. So your thoughts about, that kind of thing happening here in the United States?
Well, that's the reason that the United States has been so prosperous and such a magnet to the people around the world is that we were founded based on Judeo-Christian principles. Literally, our Constitution is divinely inspired. Our founders were inspired by the Word of God, and they were not shy about it. Our country is especially blessed because of our Christian roots. And we don't want any other kind of law other than our Judeo-Christian inspired law that is, it's grounded in the Constitution and in English common law and in the law that came from Greece and especially ancient Rome, and then was passed down through our European founders. And so Sharia law is a different kind of, so Islam is really a form of governance, right? It's a submit is basically what it means. And so the United States cannot accept other forms of law or legal framework in the United States because it would cause our society, I think, to collapse. So we want to make sure that we have our rule of law in the United States and that we fight to protect it. Texas has done that. They're not allowing Sharia law, but they do have some Sharia compliant communities that have gone in there. And when you get something like that, it's like a seed that grows. And that's how things have not gone well for Europe because they have they call them ghettos, but they're really Muslim majority communities of immigrants that haven't assimilated and they live according to their old country. Well, if they want to live according to their old country, they should go back to their old country. If they want to embrace American culture and legal framework, then great. They're welcome they're welcome to the United States as a legal immigrant, and we welcome them. We're not a one religion only country. We welcome others, but they have to follow our laws. They have to love our country. And they have to give up their allegiance from the other country. It's right in when they swear as a citizen, they remove the other allegiances. And so that has to be, and President Trump and his team have really pressed on that, Matthew. We don't want Sharia law in the United States. That's a bridge too far.
Exactly. And so if we look at a few other religions out there, maybe Hinduism or Buddhism, there are people that practice Hinduism or Buddhism in the United States. We're not talking about them because their religion doesn't say in Sharia law, if you don't submit to what we believe, it's death to you, death to America, that kind of thing. So that's really, we're going after the law aspect, not the, as you mentioned, the religion aspect. Now, I know that, I know your faith, my faith, or most of the country, I would say, would be a Christian. It's a Christian nation. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I mean, this is facts, right? So let's talk about our founding then, as we get ready to see President Trump here. I do see a video of him meeting there in, as you mentioned, Evian, France. He's going to be on camera here any second from now. But the point is, Freedom 250 coming up, and this is what it's all about in our country. And How do we get another 250 years of freedom is the question I think that at least I have, because if we don't pass the Save America Act, it's going to be a bit tough, don't you think?
I think we do need to pass the Save America Act. We have some champions in the Senate that are fighting for it. Matthew, I think still your viewers should still call. They're still in session. They don't leave for summer recess yet. And I think that we need to press them to vote for the Save America Act. I believe that it's in this new NDAA. I believe it's legally there. I'm not sure what the parliamentarian has said. And that's another issue. This, Democrat parliamentarian may be an issue for the Republican Senate. And I'm not sure why she's still there. But it is essential that we protect our elections, Matthew. We just saw what happened in California. We know what they're going to try to do in the midterms. So it's an uphill battle for Republicans to win because of the history. And this isn't new. In the 1800s, the Democrats were stealing elections in New York. Why Tammany Hall? I mean, if you had any history lesson in your high school, you know about this. This is not a new story for Democrats. But just going back to Sharia for a minute, the idea that Muslim people can come to the United States and live as productive and law-abiding citizens is true. We welcome them. They just can't bring other forms of legal framework to our country. And they have to accept that men and women are equal in the United States and all people are created equal. There's no us and then them. And that is also part of the Hindu religion. They have their caste system and it's us and then them. There are superior people. In America, we are all equal and they cannot bring corruption and they cannot bring a kind of tiered caste system to our society. We reject that. We want honest government. We want honest citizens that don't steal from taxpayers. We want you to come here as legal immigrants and we want you to play by the rules.
The thing that's awesome about this country, I mean, first of all, thank God we were born in this nation. This is think about the amount of truth and the faith. Obviously we believe in Jesus, and the thing is the freedom that we have and we've had since day one. We just want that to keep going. And thank you so much for what you're doing, Carla, to spread the word here in the States, but also abroad there at the G7 when you head out there to France. So Carla Sands, former ambassador to Denmark under President Trump's first administration. Carla, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Awesome to speak with Carla Sands. Great to speak with her about the Save America Act and many other topics, as you just may have seen there here on Right Side. Let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime, including Kalshi.com/RSBN. So all you have to do is use the QR code if you'd like, or download the app, or go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. A lot of political trending topics on there you can choose from. Also, if you're following sports, of course, the Knicks just won the championship. The Carolina Hurricanes won the championship in hockey. So what's next? How about Team USA in FIFA soccer for the gold? We'll see. Or the championship, not the gold. It's not the Olympics, but that's in 2028, right, in LA? Anyway, if you'd like to check it out, go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, another sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, CovePure.com/RSBN. I went to the website yesterday. Quite the discount that they have on this great product here. But also, if you've heard this story, researchers out there have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. I don't know what that would look like, to be honest. Like, do they swim a certain way? I don't know. It comes from birth control pills, though, that wastewater treatment plants can fully filter out, that can't fully filter out, and it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man watching right now, or if you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones in your life, this isn't something you can ignore, because that's why this is so important here with CovePure, because having the purity of the water. So here's how this actually works. When people take medication, their bodies don't absorb all of it, so then the rest gets flushed through that wastewater treatment plant. But those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So things like estrone, which is in birth control pills, or antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. So your standard pitcher filter from the store is just not going to cut it here. These compounds are just too small and too persistent. So you need something that can filter things out at a molecular level. And that's exactly what CovePure is. Their Clear Wave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So estrone, fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. And unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, fill it up with water, and plug it in. The best part is it lets you choose whatever temperature water you want. So hot water for tea and coffee, cold water for the gym, maybe warm water for baby bottles. Now, one tap of the button and you get it instantly. So those fish didn't have a choice about what was in their water, but you do. So go to covepure.com/RSBN and get that $250 off right now on covepure.com/RSBN. All right, it is 11:18, I think, 11:16 there on the network here live. Let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back here on RSBN Live.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We have a few videos to get to, some new, fresh content here on Right Side. Let's go to a post from FBI Director Kash Patel about Summer Heat 2.0.
The FBI is relaunching a very successful operation from last year with Summer Heat 2.0.
Operation Summer Heat 2.0. We just launched Summer Heat 2.0, and we're going to replicate those efforts and increase those numbers.
These operations, these men and women have saved thousands of lives in conjunction with state and local partners across the United States of America.
You can expect the exact same thing from the Trump administration and this FBI.
Last year alone, Operation Summer Heat netted 8,600 arrests, 2,300 firearms taken off the street, 7,750 search warrants executed, and 45,000 kilograms of cocaine. That's just a 3-month surge from last summer.
This FBI has restored safety and security at monumental levels.
We will go after every animal, every predator, every drug trafficker, every terrorist that dares to come into our country and try to take away our freedoms because they're jealous of the way we live.
We have to attack the criminal enterprises where they start.
And this is what righteous law enforcement looks like. This is what happens when you back good cops. This is what happens when you fund law enforcement. This is what happens when you back the blue. And this is what happens when you take the handcuffs off law enforcement and put them on the purse where they belong.
All right, let's go from Kash Patel to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, wishing President Trump a happy birthday. Of course, President Trump just turning 80 yesterday. Let's go to clip 8.
45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. I want to thank the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump. We could not have a better Commander-in-Chief than him. It is the honor of a lifetime to serve under you. We look forward to having the backs of our troops and having your back in executing peace through strength, in putting America first, and in rebuilding our military.
All right, so we see there the White House, of course, President Trump in France right now. Let's do this. Let's go to the Border Patrol because they have this new technology out there. As we have seen over the past, year plus, of the military along the southern border. Of course, it's always good to stop illegal immigrants from coming into this country. We see what's happening in Europe. We don't want that here. Let's go to clip 9. All right, so President Trump has landed in France for that G7. Let's take a look at that video of him deplaning Air Force One. Of course, this was from about an hour ago, but let's take a look at it now. All right, so it is, I believe, 5:24 Central European summertime out there in France, so 6 hours ahead of the East Coast. We're scheduled for a 11:30 Eastern, 5:30 local time for that bilateral meeting between President Trump and the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. So as soon as we see that feed, we'll take you there. In the meantime, summer travel season, of course, is here. You may have planned the flights or the road trip, booked the hotel, packed the bags, but did you think about your medications? Most people don't until they're 3 states away and realize they left something important at home. Or maybe someone gets sick while on vacation, there's no doctor in sight. That's why more Americans are turning to our good sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, before they travel. If you already have a prescription for essential medications, they can fill it out. Or they can fill it, and if not, you can complete a short medical form online, and they connect you with a licensed doctor who will review your request and prescribe if appropriate. They have more than 400 medications: antibiotics, ivermectin, allergy medications, emergency inhalers, maintenance meds, everything shipped straight to your door. So you don't have to wait till something goes wrong. You can prepare now. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use code RSBN10 to save that 10% off your order. And there's the QR code as well. Save that 10% from this great American independent pharmacy. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as well. If you want to buy some gold and put some silver in your pocket at the same time, you can do that. But a lot of things, of course, are expensive right now. So you might be asking yourself, how am I going to purchase gold? Well, one thing you can control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. So Birch Gold Group will actually help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold. It's something that, of course, is a hedge against inflation. And check this out. Right now, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. So 10 years ago, an ounce of gold was about $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. The question is, where will it be 10 years from now? So all you have to do is text Trump to 989898 to take advantage of free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, you'll get a free info kit as well, all about Birch Gold Group. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898 today. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close to seeing the president and the president of France, Emmanuel Macron. Again, this is a 3-day state visit there in France for President Trump. This is the G7. The G7 includes 7 countries, including Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and of course, our great country, the United States of America. The leaders will be discussing a number of global issues. Of course, President Trump, I'm sure, will be talking about that agreement that will hopefully be signed on Friday between Iran, the United States, and others for a peace deal. So we'll monitor that. Also, economic policy and global financial stability, trade and international commerce, international security as well. They'll also discuss development aid, global health, poverty reduction, emerging topics like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and technology governance. Now, again, France is 6 hours ahead of East Coast time, so in just a few minutes, Central European Summer Time, which is 5:30 there. That's, of course, 11:30 here on the East Coast. The president will participate in that bilateral meeting with the president of France. In the meantime, we know that tonight, 7:30 local time out there in France, 1:30 East Coast time, the president will participate in a G7 leaders working dinner. So we'll have that live feed for you as well a bit later in the broadcast. All right, so if you're just joining us now, as soon as we see that live feed, we'll take you there. In the meantime, in case you missed it, the great country artist Lee Greenwood, who will be singing on June 24th at the America is Back rally with President Trump. It's going to be a great day to watch a live stream, of course, with Right Side Broadcasting Network. But let's go to Lee Greenwood from our interview on Friday as we await President Trump in France today. And joining us now is, of course, a great patriot, a great American patriot, country artist, Lee Greenwood. Thank you again for joining us, Lee.
You're welcome. Great to talk to you.
You too, you too. So, of course, the America is Back rally coming up June 24th. Of course, you'll be singing there, performing there in front of the world. This isn't you're used to doing these kind of things. So your thoughts about that, Freedom 250 on July 4th.
Yeah, the Great American State Fair, and I wondered why it was called the State Fair, and then I realized it's, even though it may be in D.C. or Virginia, it's all 50 states are going to have a representative there, which kicks off America Freedom 250 all the way through past July 4th. And so performing there will be different for me because even though I'm on tour with my band still and we're on the road a lot, this will be with probably the Marine Band, I think the president's own. So it's like, holy cow. The last time I did that was at University of Tennessee. And they had 200 players on the field. But yeah, singing live there and then introducing the president, which I think you probably heard that, which is always a privilege for me to do.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen you do that here on RSBN from time to time, and also on June 24th for that America is Back rally. We're looking forward to seeing you and hearing you sing God Bless the USA. Of course, your 1983 legendary hit across this country and probably around the world. They know about it, I'm sure. And so the beginning of the lyrics there, I was listening to the song on the way into the studio here, and of course it says, if tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today because the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. That part there, your thoughts about that? I mean, I feel you, I hear you, I can hear the USA chants, but can they ever take it away if they mess with the Constitution or if they don't pass the Save America Act, that kind of thing? Your thoughts?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, we have a democracy, which nobody can seem to compliment. And we have the Declaration of Independence, which gives us authority to govern ourselves. We also have the strongest military in the world. When I said they can't take that away, no matter who they are, they could be a foreign government, they could be from somebody inside our country trying to take over our democracy. But whoever they are, I meant that we are everlasting, but that nobody can take this away from us.
Exactly, and that's what we're working for, you know, freedom fighters in a way, legally, lawfully, and spiritually. And speaking of legally, wouldn't it be great to see the Save America Act pass with Congress to really secure that freedom that you so beautifully sang?
I have never understood. I've been to the polls since I was very young. I guess I voted first when I was 21. And And I have always presented my identification. Here I am. This is either my driver's license. I even had my student card from school or my library card, something like. But you really have to have a citizen identification. In the early days, before voting was more national, they had to own land in order to vote. Maybe we should go back to that. I don't know. But to tell you the truth, you have to have a government ID that identifies you as a citizen of the United States to vote. I think that's what I believe.
Exactly. And then maybe the cut down of all those extra mail-in ballots unless it's needed, right, for military or medical, that kind of thing, all part of the Save America Act. But shifting back to you being near the National Mall there, the great reflecting pool, you know, every time that you do one of these great performances, I don't know. I mean, is it a brand new whole feeling for you, or is it kind of like, well, I've done this before?
Well put. And you're exactly right. I mean, whether it was on the Nimitz aircraft carrier for the Navy during the Persian Gulf conflict, or in Panama, where I was there with the military, or at the White House, and I've sang it all across this globe. Each one has a historic meaning for me. After the attack on America in 2001, of course, the fourth game of the World Series, where I wore the red, white, and blue jacket. It's available on YouTube if people wanted to see that. I sang the national anthem instead at Dover for the first race back. Every one of the events that I've sang to, 3 different presidential elections I've sang for a president as they were inaugurated. So as we move forward in time, I'm sure there'll be others. But this 4th of July, I'm 83. So I don't know that I'll see another one, another inauguration. But if I do, I'd probably be there. I'd proudly be there to sing if they ask me.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. And speaking of 83 years old, 1983, of course, your great God Bless the USA song out. We may be playing that song a little bit later here on Right Side. We've heard it so many times on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We always love to hear it. Also, before the interview, we were talking about your hoodie. It looks awesome. And then also Allied Flag is a great sponsor, right? So can you talk to us about both?
Yeah, absolutely. My friends at Bass Pro, Johnny Morris and I have been friends a long time, and they're a wonderful American company. They actually have products that are available for all walks of American life. So the newly produced, and I just got this in my hand day before yesterday, is in cooperation and partnership with the Allied Flag Company. They're producing this brand new flag, available now for, of course, the 4th of July. It's easy out of the box, as you see, and it's nylon, weather resistant, and made in the United States of America, and available now across all Bass Pro shops across the country. And I know that they are going there now as we speak. So if you want to get one of these and get the box, it has my name and likeness on it and my signature, you better get it before 4th of July, because they'll be gone after that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that looks like an awesome product to get. A good memorabilia too for America 250, Freedom 250 coming up right there. So Allied Flag. And finally,
Flag.
sir, yeah, and just in 48 hours from now, June 14th is Flag Day, President Trump's birthday, the UFC fight, and all the things. This is a whole different look than under Biden, Obama, and the others. I know you might not want to get into too many political statements here, but it really looks good for me and you.
Well, true. And I'll go back to that for 1 second. AlliedFlag.com. It's where you can find them if you want to order online. Otherwise, go to the Bass Pro Shops and pick up one. So tomorrow, June 13th, is my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, Kim, my beautiful bride, married 34 years. And then, of course, President Trump's birthday on the 14th, Flag Day. Happy birthday, Mr. President. And also the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. And remember, we had an army before we had a republic.
Exactly. It's 1775. The great country artist, great American patriot, Lee Greenwood. Thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, of course, so Lee Greenwood will perform on June 24th at the Freedom 250 event. Now, that is going to be the kickoff to the Great American State Fair, which will be on June 25th through July 10th. Of course, a great state American fair happening there along the National Mall. But on June 24th, the America is Back rally with President Trump. Of course, Lee Greenwood will be performing. Also, the presidential tenor, Christopher Macchio, will be joining as well. If you remember, the Italian singer that does such a great job for the president, just overall with all these different events that he attends. Well, he's actually attending, or at least in France, at the same time that the G7's happening. So maybe he's performing there as well. We'll go to that interview if we have time, because right now, of course, we're 6 minutes after the scheduled start time for President Trump and the meeting there with Emmanuel Macron. Now, we do know that President Trump just arrived to that G7 summit. Let's take a look at that video from moments ago.
On Friday, Mr. President.
Will you meet Zelensky? Are you happy?
The president just simply saying everything is very nice, and then moving along there into the G7 summit. Again, 7 countries involved in the G7 there in France. President Trump will be there through Wednesday. So each day we'll be here live, of course, for various events when it comes to the president. Today's day 1, tomorrow for day 2, and day 3. If there are other live events that happen where the president is on camera, we'll either bring that up live for you right here on Right Side, or we'll upload it right away. But you can count on us. We've been kind of doing this for a while now, of course, here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thanks again for joining us here live. Now, those 7 countries, for those that may be wondering: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and of course our country, the United States, part of that G7, talking about a whole assortment of global issues. All right, as we await that live feed for that bilateral meeting, let's do this. Let's go to Christopher Macchio. He is in France. We interviewed him recently. He's going to be performing on June 24th as well, alongside Lee Greenwood for that America is Back rally. So let's go to Christopher right now. And joining us now is presidential tenor Christopher Macchio. Of course, thanks so much for joining us once again, Christopher.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
It's always great to have you on the broadcast. It's a little bit of inside baseball because, of course, you have a friendship with the commander-in-chief, the most famous person on earth. And then on top of that, he says on Truth Social the other day, all these things about who will be performing on June 24th, yourself and Lee Greenwood. Your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, it's a privilege to be mentioned in the same sentence as a legend like Lee Greenwood. And I think it's just a wonderful opportunity to come together and perform some patriotic classics that remind all of us of how fortunate we are that we were born in this country, and we have now the opportunity to celebrate the 250th anniversary of this nation's founding. So it's going to be just a tremendously positive, upbeat, patriotic event. And I can tell you, again, from the inside, that nobody has a better sense of how to put on a spectacular show than our Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump. And so he gave Lee and I the call, and we're more than happy to answer that call. So it's going to be great.
You know, it's interesting. Every time you perform, I think that the last performance is the biggest for you. And can there be anything bigger, right? I mean, performing when President Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, there's Christopher Macchio. Then you have all these heads of state in the White House East Room. There you are performing for people from all around the world and a number of other really well-known people. And then now, our 250th birthday party, you're on stage. And what is it like to be able to use your gift? You know, to work and to use your gift, and it all comes naturally to you, must feel really good.
Well, in terms of just having been blessed with a voice, it's a privilege that you really have to be the steward of, a responsible steward, and cultivate it in a way that you can share it with as many people as possible in a way that really resonates with and moves as many people as possible in the right ways. And I really endeavor to imbue my performances with a sense of patriotism and pageantry, and I try to rise to the occasion. And so you're excited, but you're also really, there's a little bit of nerves insofar as you want to do justice to our president, to our nation, and really rise to that occasion. And so, sometimes your body, I know that I have the technique and the knowledge to sing, but your body also has a say, and the adrenaline has a say, and so it's always a little bit of a tightrope that you have to walk, because you want to really, really show the world what you can do, and there's and like I said, it's just such a blessing to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, your career already solid, and then enhanced by some serious fame now. So I'm sure that even more shows.
I'm getting there.
Well, I'm saying,
yeah. And
I'm
the
just
thing
saying,
is, these different opportunities I've had, like you said, there was the rallies, the RNCs, then there was the return to Butler, which was a tremendously solemn occasion for the nation. We played during that performance in Butler the bells of Notre Dame. A recording of the bells of Notre Dame that was synchronized with the moments that the bullets rang out. And today, just today, I had the privilege of hearing those very same bells live and in person, the Notre Dame bells of Paris. And so, like you said, each time it's just another step in the right direction. I performed for the state dinner, of course, the inauguration, of course. President Trump entrusted that solemn honor with me on January 20th of last year. And then we had the wonderful state dinner, like you said. And just this past Sunday, I sang for a mass commemorating the start of the FIFA World Cup with Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA. And now I'll be coming back into town and taking the stage, not only with Lee Greenwood, but with, of course, our men and service women in uniform. I'll be having the United States Marines with me, and it's just going to be, a tremendous show of pageantry and patriotism. And it's all because of our president, Donald J. Trump.
And then on top of that, Washington, D.C. is looking a whole lot better, not only from the visual perspective, but the crime is down. Thank God for the National Guard, right, Christopher?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes you really just need to call in, people like the National Guard to lay down the law a little bit and to keep the peace. I was just in Washington 2 weeks ago for an Italian-American celebration, and they were just all so very happy that President Trump and his secretary, Bogram, were able to clean up the Columbus statue, for example. I mean, this thing was covered in statues and all kinds of graffiti, spray paint, protest slogans, and they cleaned it. It is pristine, beautiful white marble. The water is now flowing again, just like it is in many parks across Washington, D.C. And it's so beautiful to see that. And of course, this celebration on the 24th is going to be on the scene of the National Mall, and we have the water flowing there again. We have no green swamp slum. He literally drained the swamp on the National Mall, and now we have beautiful crystal clear water for our public to enjoy as part of this celebration. And for me to represent the musical component of that, as you know, I'm a co-founder of Make Music Right, a charity that is trying to promote a more elevated sensibility in our culture. And so it is my privilege not only to represent our country and our president, but the charity that I believe in so strongly, as we try to nurture the right values that are coming back, values that our president, that this administration are championing from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, as we celebrate the 250th birthday of our great nation.
We are looking forward to your epic performance and celebrating our epic country on June 24th. Presidential tenor Christopher Macchio, thanks again for joining us from Paris.
Thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you soon.
All right, take care, man. All right, and speaking of Paris, or at least France, of course, President Trump is there now. He is getting ready to meet with the French president, Emmanuel Macron, as this is part of his 3-day state trip there to France. This is the G7. President Trump flying around 3-4 in the morning overnight, East Coast time, and has already landed in France. This after quite the birthday party, also Flag Day, of course, for our country yesterday, with that UFC party that happened. Of course, not really a party when you're getting your face hit the way they do there with UFC, but still a big bash that a number of people were able to watch. And we aired a few of the highlights of not only really the fight, but just more of the whole environment there. Pretty electric environment. Speaking of electric environments, outside of D.C., if you go down to Raleigh, North Carolina, a lot of cheering there because the Carolina Hurricanes are the NHL Stanley Cup champions. Of course, we saw what happened in San Antonio the other day for the New York Knicks. So that's outside of all the sports stuff. Let's go back to the politics, though, right? So we know the G7, of course, involves Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and our great country. So the leaders going to discuss a whole host of global issues. So we'll hear from the president here shortly with the French president as well. And of course, you know, speaking about Iran, I'm sure that topic will be brought up right away. And then also some of the Q&A from maybe the French press there, and also the United States travel pool, as we hear the back and forth between the various reporters there, including a network out there in France called France 24. It's kind of like, you know, BBC in England, or, you know, CNN, Fox here in this country. But you know what? Outside of all that, isn't it great to have conservative media, or at least people on the right side of history that are talking, whether it's Right Side Broadcasting Network or a number of conservative networks, including on X and on Truth Social. Really great to be on the team freedom within the media, right? It's basically David versus Goliath in a way. And figuratively speaking, you know, we're on Team David, and we know who wins in the end on that one. But anyway, so glad you're here with us, and please join us tomorrow as well. We'll be here live for President Trump's events that will happen in France, and then also on Wednesday. And then we're slowly getting closer to June 24th, of course, for that huge America is Back rally in Washington, D.C. And did you see that photo? Speaking of Washington, D.C., I believe this was on Saturday night prior to the big UFC fight that happened with Freedom 250 yesterday. There was, I think, the weigh-ins, or there was some sort of event that was happening with the Nitro Circus and all the different bikes and all that. Oh, beautiful picture. I don't think we have it here, but I know I didn't find it. I'm just kind of talking on the fly right now, but the rainbow there with the Washington Monument, the orange skies. It was a pretty cool look there in Washington, D.C., and you know, that rainbow from God, right, in the Old Testament, still there, showing that he won't ever flood the earth again. Thank God. Wow. Anyway, so we see there, of course, we will be beginning shortly. So let's do this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Brightside Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Brightside Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
not just kind of let that go and be like, oh, whoever wins. It's like, that's the time to vote as well, right, guys? So was able to do that here in the state of Alabama, because I'm not going to try and practice and not practice what I preach, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm a preacher. I'm just saying when I talk about, hey, we got to get out the vote, well, I got to do it too, right? So definitely, of course, voted for Tommy Tuberville, as he will be ideally and hopefully the next governor of Alabama coming up. So he won that primary handedly. And of course, there's a number of races out there that we've been watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So we are approaching the top of the hour right now, as we are 3 minutes from noon. Now, what we can do is, if this is going to delay any longer, if you're just joining us, the former ambassador to Denmark, Carla Sands, under President Trump's first administration, she's actually going to be traveling to France, I believe, tomorrow. For the G7 as well. So we interviewed her some time ago within this broadcast. So we might go back to that, as it's very fresh in the sense of content-wise when it comes to the latest news as we await this G7. So the summit, the meeting, the bilateral meeting, of course, with President Trump and Emmanuel Macron. So what we're hearing is that the press is right outside of the venue, or right outside of the room where this bilateral meeting will be held. Obviously, the cameras are just not on yet. So as soon as they are on, we'll take you there, just like we do every day here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Hope you had a great weekend, as we are, looking at a number of great things about to happen here in our country when it comes to the June 24th America is Back rally. Of course, July 4th, Freedom 250 for our nation, and also any other news that happens, we'll be here to cover it. And of course, President Trump's busy schedule. Pretty easy to have this amount of content because of President Trump and the team there constantly having live press availability, which, if you remember, that was not the case always under Biden. I watched a video the other day, as I'm just stretching here a little bit as we await this live feed, but Biden signed a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package back in the day. Can you believe it? 1.9 trillion. And so he signs this, he goes, okay, got it. And he puts the pen down on the Resolute desk, and he gets up and walks out of the Oval Office as reporters are trying to get his attention to say, hey, ask about the, whatever. And of course, Biden was an illegitimate president anyway. We all know what happened there. But the point is, President Trump, man, he just doesn't do it that way. He is there, he takes on the questions, he talks about what he wants to talk about, and he does it that way. So it's a lot more access to the commander-in-chief that we've seen in President Trump's first administration, now in his second administration, as we are continuing our live coverage here on Right Side. We're going to take another commercial break. Ideally, we'll have the Carla Sands interview for you ready to go, or even better, seeing President Trump live there in France. So as soon as we see that, we'll take you to it. Let's go to that commercial break. I'm Matthew Alvarez. This is RSBN Live.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
All right. Still seeing that we will begin shortly there, of course, out there in France. President Trump about to meet with Emmanuel Macron for this G7 bilateral meeting. Of course, the next 3 days, so the next 72 hours, it's President Trump, it's France, and it's RSBN. And if you're watching on another network, obviously you're not watching us right now if I'm saying that, so that's okay. At the end of the day, glad you're here with us on Right Side. If you'd like to pass along the various links or wherever you're watching to your friends and family as we continue to cover the 24/7 news cycle from that conservative news perspective. Not afraid to say that. I mean, at least we're saying where we're coming from. If you look at some of these other networks out there like CNN or whatever, or MS Now, why not at least just come out and say, hey, we're really for the extreme radical left agenda. We're really for Democrats and AOC and Chuck Schumer and the Nancy Pelosi's of the world and the Gavin Newsoms and Brandon Johnson and JB Pritzkers of the world. Okay, you could just come out and say it. At least you're being a little bit more honest. All right, so we know this. The President Trump is now about to be on this right side of your screen. We're going to go there live because the press, I'm told, in the old earpiece here at Right Side, that the press is going inside that venue. So this, again, this is the G7 bilateral meeting. The following nations represented, and there might be a few others, but the main G7 countries are Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and of course the United States of America. And we're hearing that the leaders will discuss numerous global issues, including economic policy and global financial stability, trade and international commerce, international security and geopolitics, development aid, global health, poverty reduction, and emerging topics like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and technology governance. So again, this is 6 hours ahead of us. At 6 o'clock out there in France right now, or 6:04 to be exact, Central European summertime. That is 6 hours ahead of the East Coast time. Let's go there now.
Cyril is from France. Did you watch the fight?
Yeah. Not in direct, but I saw it this morning.
That was a great fight. It was a great evening at the White House.
Bilateral, Cyril.
Thank you.
Please. Bienvenue au président. I will say a few words in French. Je souhaitais d'abord accueillir et souhaiter la bienvenue au président Trump. Et merci d'être là un lendemain d'anniversaire et de célébration, et je remercie son équipe, les ministres et ambassadeurs et l'équipe la plus proche d'être là à ses côtés. C'est important qu'on puisse d'abord avoir ce G7 au lendemain d'un accord essentiel qui a été scellé avec l'Iran pour parler évidemment de nos grandes crises, l'Iran, l'Ukraine, nos guerres, leurs règlements, construire la paix et restaurer la prospérité, mais aussi voir les voies et moyens de coopérer entre nos économies. Et c'est le but du G7. Pour améliorer la prospérité, les éléments de coopération dans les différents domaines. Puis nous aurons l'occasion aussi de célébrer à la française les 250 ans d'indépendance, la France ayant été aux côtés des États-Unis d'Amérique à Versailles dans 2 jours. I wanted to say, to commend President Trump for celebration yesterday and to welcome President Trump and his ministers and his team for being here in Evian for the G7. I think yesterday was signed a very important agreement, a peace deal with Iran. And it's a very important one because first it will fix the nuclear issue. First it will fix the nuclear issue. And it's a very important matter for peace, for the whole world. And it will reopen Hormuz. It will provide peace in Lebanon. And so we are ready to take our fair share of the burden and be part of the commitment of the international community in order to support this deal. And we will discuss about that together and with colleagues later on. But it's a very important step towards peace, but as well for the global economy. We will have the occasion to discuss about the war in Ukraine, in order to re-engage together and negotiate a good and solid peace and sustainable peace. And President Zelensky will be with us as well tomorrow. And obviously, we will have the occasion to bring this G7 to speak about a series of issues from rare earths, critical minerals, trade, etc., where we have to build convergence amongst the G7 members. And it will be the occasion for us to celebrate the 250th years of independence for the US. And Versailles is a good place because this is where the King and his Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time did support the US during years, but as well prepared what we called the Paris Treaty in 1783, which was the final point of this war. So it's a great honor and a great pleasure to have you, Mr. President, in Evian and Paris.
Thank you, thank you. So, Emmanuel has been a special friend of mine. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've worked on many deals together. I'm very happy to say signed, the deal's all signed. And the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found. But it's essentially, ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened. We got along very well with Iran. It's a different set of leaders. As you know, the first set is gone, the second set is gone. And we found the third set to be very smart, strong, very smart, but we ended up making a deal. I felt badly that we had to go back on the attack for 2 nights, and I thought a third, but we made it before that happened. But I think a lot of great things are going to happen in the Middle East right now, and very importantly, the oil is plummeting down, and the stock market is shooting up like a rocket today, like record kind of numbers. And the oil has taken its biggest plunge, and we're into the low numbers, not quite back yet, Kevin, to the extent, but we're getting close to the numbers we were before it all started. And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that with strong policing powers, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, which is what it was all about, because they probably would have used it if they had it. So we had 2 big moments. When they terminated the JCPOA, that was the Obama deal, the Barack Hussein Obama deal. And when I terminated that, it was very important because it was a road to a nuclear weapon. It was a horrible deal for the United States. It was a deal where billions of dollars was given to Iran. It was a deal where $1.7 billion in cash was put on a Boeing not a 757, I guess, right? But it was put on a big, beautiful Boeing 757. They needed a Boeing 747, to be honest with you, because there was a lot of cash. 1.7 billion was taken out of the banks and given to Iran. And on top of that, tens of billions of dollars was paid. So they tried to bribe them to make a deal, and that didn't work. It never works. And we've done a great job. And hopefully it's going to be a good relationship, and we're going to get along. And if we don't, we go back to where we started, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. The Iran deal that we made is going to bring a lot of success to the world, because the oil was really clogged up there for a while. He would call me on occasion and say, "Come on, please, let's go with the oil prices." But the oil is coming way down, so I'm very honored by it. I want to thank you for your help. You've always been a help. And it's an honor to be with you. We had a very good conversation yesterday with President Zelensky and President Putin. And I see maybe we can do something there. I really do. I think they're both open to it. So I'm going to, now that this is finished, we're going to be focusing on that, see if we can get that one done. 25,000 people a month are dying, mostly soldiers, and that shouldn't happen. But had 2 very good conversations yesterday. We'll be talking about it. And we had a really exciting, I think maybe one of the most incredible evenings in the history of the White House. We had an evening last night with the fighters, and I was very happy. I called last night, very late last night, to congratulate you, because in the heavyweight division, a French fighter won. I don't know, is that maybe more important than the World Cup? To some people it might be. To some people it might be. You have a good team in the World Cup, very good team, but you have good fighters too. And you're a great country, and it's an honor to be with you. Thank you very much.
Hey sir, are you going to try to attend the signing ceremony on Friday?
Well, it depends. JD's coming in for it. He was originally going to do it. I'll probably be gone by then. We're having dinner in a day and a half, right? We're going to be staying quite late. So I may be involved, I may not. But JD was coming in for that specifically.
Mr. President, when will the text of the MOU be released?
I think pretty soon. I would say, I want it to be released because it's a very powerful document. It's not like the Obama document, which was just a terrible document. This is a very powerful document, and I want it to be released, so probably pretty soon. I would say sometime after Friday, because the strait opens completely. It's open now, but it opens completely. We'll have all the mines knocked out for the most part. We have a lot of lanes right now already.
Mr. President.
So I think sometime in the very near future, yeah.
Mr. President, does the deal involve any sanctions relief for Iran? When would that go into
No, it doesn't. Well, they have to. It's really a behavioral thing. If they do what they're supposed to do, that starts taking effect.
Monsieur Macron, quel engagement êtes-vous prêt à prendre au nom de la France dans le détroit d'Ormuz qui est parlé du porte-avions Charles de Gaulle? Mr. President, what do you expect from France and
Well, I would love them to do that. I don't think we're going to need much help because we have an agreement where it's going to be open, and it's toll-free. We had a little argument on that. It's toll-free. So I don't think we're going to need much help, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have a ship or two up here from a few countries. You'd be a great country to do it because you never know what happens, but I think it's going to be open, and I think it's going to be free sailing. We do want to see if we can straighten out the Lebanon thing, because it just seems to just never end. And that's a mini version of what we were doing, and it should not be tough. It should not be tough. So Hezbollah, we have to have a little talk with them.
Je vais juste répondre en français à la question qui a été posée en français sur la contribution. Nous sommes prêts à avoir dès demain des chasseurs qui sont sur place et qui peuvent aider aux missions d'observation, et sous 48 heures des frégates qui peuvent évidemment se déployer, et sous 2 à 3 jours le porte-avions avec les frégates qui l'accompagnent et l'ensemble du groupe. Évidemment, tout ça suppose d'être souhaité et demandé par les États-Unis d'Amérique et l'Iran et Oman, c'est-à-dire les parties prenantes de l'accord et les deux parties en particulier autour du détroit. Et nous avons agrégé avec les Britanniques une mission ad hoc où d'ores et déjà une vingtaine de pays ont donné leur contribution concrète et ce qu'ils étaient prêts à faire, et nous sommes 4 à être présents dans la région. Donc voilà, c'est une offre, nous sommes à disposition, ça montre le soutien de la communauté internationale, notre volonté de réouvrir ce détroit, et comme l'a dit le président, peut-être que ça ne sera pas souhaité, et peut-être que ce ne sera pas nécessaire, mais en tout cas c'est une disposition qui marque notre volonté d'aider, de soutien et notre disponibilité. Et nous sommes prêts.
Vous êtes inquiet sur les menaces de droit de douane?
Non, on est là pour discuter. Il y a des accords qui ont été signés en avance. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
All right, so the bilateral meeting there with President Trump and Emmanuel Macron of France. Of course, this is day 1 of the 3-day state visit to France for President Trump. We'll get more live coverage a bit later today as the president will be holding some other meetings there. And of course, you could join us tomorrow for various pre-shows, and on Wednesday covering the president's trip in the G7 there. Let's do this. Let's go to a couple of sponsors. MyPillow.com/RSBN is one of them. Of course, we know that June 21st is Father's Day, so you have a little bit of time right now if you'd like to purchase a few great products there on MyPillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. rsbnetwork.com/donate. So, The next live feed, I believe, is at 1:30 Eastern Time right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, so stay tuned for that. And also follow us on all of our social media platforms out there. Thanks so much for joining us for this first live stream broadcast on this Monday, June 15th. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again later.